Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me today for our webinar. The topic for today is digital marketing, fixing the basics. So we're going to talk all about the basics of some digital marketing, including organic marketing, your website, as well as some advertising. The idea of today's session is really to give you a bit of a taster and segue into some of the more extensive webinars and workshops that we have. So do keep that in mind. There's a lot of information that we'll go through today. Some of it you may be across, other information may be new concepts. My name's Kristy. I'm a presenter and an advisor for Business Station as part of the Digital Solutions program. So one thing I will say is we do have a range of advisors that can assist with any of the topics that we go through today. So do keep that in mind. There's a lot more information. I'll point out as we go where you can access more webinars, workshops, or advisors. So in terms of what we're actually going to go through, we will talk about some of the key components of online marketing, and then we'll touch on some must-dos in each element, and that will incorporate websites, some online business listing information, SEO, which is search engine optimization, SEM, which is search engine marketing, social media, and email marketing as well. So lots to get through. But before we do get into the website side of things, just a quick touch on the benefits of online marketing. Now, some of you may be online already. Others, you may be a startup or looking to transition your business from bricks and mortar more into having an online presence. But there's a lot of benefits of online marketing. Keep in mind that consumers use the internet to search and to find businesses. So whether you are already online or you're a bricks and mortar store, or perhaps service-based, consumers or your customers essentially will be actively seeking out information like your contact details, perhaps what products and services you have available, and also how to purchase, or they will want to purchase products and services at a time that suits them as well. So it may not always be when you're open, but there's a lot of benefits to online marketing. Obviously that global reach, and to be able to reach more people than you traditionally would be able to, is a major benefit. The fact that you can have a presence 24/7 is also a benefit. It's low cost or cost effective. So I like to think of any kind of digital efforts as accessible to any size business or any size budget, really. Also, the results that you can achieve online are measurable, and they're measurable within a short time frame as well. So essentially immediately your results are available, but depending on how much of a trend and how long you want to let a campaign or let things run for before you measure the results will give you sort of better averages. You can really be targeted online and accurately reach your target market as well. So a key thing is to know who your target market is, which we'll touch on a little bit. And lastly, it's really to build relationships with your customers. So once they've transacted with you, built a bit of a relationship with you, the idea is that you want to keep that relationship going well into the future. So a lot of benefits there. Now, before we get into website design, I will just say, if you have any questions at any time, please reach out by way of the Q&A functionality. Just type in a question there and I'll answer them as I go. We will also have some time at the end of the session where I'll stay on to answer questions as well. So please do reach out. Okay, so first of all, looking at your website design, your website really is at the core of your online marketing, but you have to keep in mind it's only part of the strategy. So your potential customers have to be able to find your website. You need to actively engage with them, with current customers, with future customers online, generally by way of social media and other mechanisms. And we will talk about that side of it. But first, the website itself is that place where customers will find out about your products and services. They'll perhaps make purchases. Even if you do have a bricks and mortar store, you might also have that online bookability, or that ability for people to transact with you. Or you might be purely online and not have any kind of physical premises. So I would think about your website in any of those cases as a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week salesperson. This is your number one salesperson. And considering that, if you already have a website, think about your homepage. Think about the nature of your website. If it was to be your 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, your number one salesperson, is it actually doing your business justice? Is it selling your product or services as it should? So there are some key elements of your website to consider to make sure that it really is selling your product as it should. First of all, the purpose. What is the purpose of the site? Is it to get business? Is it for people to contact you to make purchases? You have to cater to the needs of the user, so why they're actually going onto your site. The communication within your website, people should be able to get information quickly and easily. There should be enough information on there to answer key questions, but not too much that they're having to trawl through pages and pages of information just to get answers. Or you might find that there's a trend of people contacting you saying, asking a particular question about your product or service. Maybe the information isn't easily available on your website, and therefore they're having to get to that stage of contacting you directly. And the overall look is really important. Now, this incorporates your images, your fonts, and your colors. So your overall kind of branding. You have to position your brand correctly, and it has to be professional and true to your product and to your service. One thing you never want to see in a website is a website that's at a very high level, but the business, brand-wise, for example, but the business, when the customer's sort of facing business doesn't match that, or vice versa. You don't want to have this amazing business, but the website isn't a true representation of who your business or who the nature of your brand is. So it has to represent your product and be true to your product. Font-wise, they should be easy to read. They should be large enough by way of pixel size, and your colors should all complement your actual brand and suit your target market. So that's really important as well, to clearly define who your target market is and then tailor that overall look around what's going to appeal best to your target market. That really comes into play when we talk about images. So images that feature the type of person that is your target market are really important. So that sort of comes back to understanding your key audience, essentially, as part of your marketing strategy. Your navigation is important. How easy is it to take action and move around? Your website, that F pattern, top to bottom, left to right, tends to be the most the most user-friendly, but the most common as well. Now, some businesses will have different styles of navigation. You might have a really modern, new and exciting navigation, but again, think about your target market. Is that going to appeal to them, and are they going to be able to use your website? The load time is really important. You don't want to annoy people by having a really slow load time on your website. But also, and we'll touch on this when we talk about search engine optimization, that is really important from an SEO perspective as well. Now, having your website responsive or mobile friendly is absolutely crucial. Again, crucial for Google or for other search engines from an SEO perspective, but really important for your customer. If you're looking at any analytics like Google Analytics, for example, you'll be able to see what percentage of your visitors to your site are coming via mobile devices versus desktop. But the trends are certainly there that the large majority of people are sort of swaying towards devices. Now, that will really depend on the nature of your business, what the purpose of your website is, and what your industry is. But check it out for yourself and just understand that. Now, a responsive site is what you see on the screen. That picture is a good example of a site that will adapt its size and shape based on the device that the user is actually viewing it on. Now, as I mentioned, everything about your website should be speaking to and aimed at your target market. So this is your design, your colors, your fonts, the technology, the functionality. Go back and define your target market and understand exactly what's going to appeal to them and what works, and then tailor your website accordingly. Now, having a great website is one thing. As I mentioned, you also need to find people to find that, and that's where SEO comes into it, which we'll talk about. But before we do, a question that I often get asked is, should you try and build a website yourself? If so, what content management system, what platform, or should you work with a developer? Now, I think, considering again that your website is this 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week salesperson, I would consider using someone to professionally design your website, or if you can design it yourself by way of using templates, actually design it yourself, or some other platform that gives you a design that works for your business, and that's fine as well. So there's no right or wrong answer there. It really comes down to making sure that your website is representing your business at the highest possible level and is functional and easy to use and works. If you do decide to work with a developer, a couple of things to consider. I would always look at their past projects and understand their level of expertise. I would make sure that you understand what the price includes, how many pages, how many revisions of each page once they start to give you designs, whether or not you're happy with them, how many times you can go back and change that. I would make sure that that entire process is very transparent in terms of, you know, pricing, what's included, time frames, all of that kind of thing. Now, if you can, I would try to engage with them more than just online or over email. So I would say a face-to-face interaction, even like what we're having now. It doesn't have to be in person, but some kind of communication, so that if, you know, you're getting to a point where you've gone back and forth a few times on email and you're still not happy, or there's things that you want to tweak, you can just give them a call and talk them through some of the things that you want adjusted. It can just save a lot of time and a lot of effort and miscommunication. The last thing I would recommend is that it's built in a professional content management system. So I think that's really important as well. Now, a content management system will have, you know, it's a formal sort of area where you can access, you can log in, update your website rather than custom designing a site for you. WordPress, Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, there's so many content management systems. You do have to pick those that are right for you. Now, we do have webinars and workshops on various content management systems. So, you know, if you're thinking you might want a Shopify site, reach out and have a look at some of our webinars around Shopify or WordPress. So there's a number, and within our advisor pool, we actually have experts that cover a range of those different content management systems. So lots of information you can find out about those. Now, still in line with your website and what's on your website, content is really important. The content has to be good quality content. First of all, I would do, obviously, understand who your target audience is, first and foremost, but do thorough topic and keyword research. So keyword research is basically having a bit of a brainstorm and going, you know, I think people would search this particular term if they were trying to get to my business. Then you back that up with data. So there's tools that you can use to say, all right, there's actually 500 searches per month on this key term. So we have an entire webinar on keyword research because it's that much of an interesting topic. But before you do any kind of SEO, before you build any website, keyword research is absolutely the number one thing that I would do. Understand what it is and what the volumes are around various searches, and then tailor your website towards those terms. Now, this is going to mean that you're building your website for the customer because it's based on volumes of what people are really searching, but also for SEO. So you want your website to rank where there are actually proven numbers of people searching particular terms. So that's really important as well. Your content on your website should be original, obviously your own content, not plagiarized. It should be succinct and to the point so that it's easily read by your customers or your potential customers. Using things like headlines are really important, bullet points, and breaking content up so that it's a lot more easily digestible for consumers is highly recommended. So keep that in mind. There's also some SEO value in that, which we'll talk about shortly as well. Hyperlinking is really important. So let's say your homepage talks about your range of products. So, you know, company XYZ has products A, B, and C. When you talk about product A, have a nice little link that links people straight to the page where that product A information is. This is fantastic for the customer because it means that if you're telling us about it, we don't then have to go up to the menu, find the relevant page and waste time sort of navigating around that. A simple click on the word will take us straight there. Because it's good for the customer, it's also good for SEO. So we'll touch on that one as well. Lastly, I would just say proofread your website and all the content on your website. You don't want to get caught out with spelling errors and that kind of thing. It's going to make your customers question your professionalism. It's not good for SEO. So yeah, make sure that you don't make those little errors. Now, in terms of functionality and accessibility of your website, there's a couple of things. Your consistent headings are really important. So we talk about headings. You might have a large heading that tells the user what the entire page is about. And then you may have smaller headings that break up different sections or paragraph. paragraphs, I should say, I would keep those headings consistent across your website. So you have a bit of a template type feel where people get used to how things look on all pages of your site, so that not every page of your site is completely different. You might have different structures of different pages based on whether they're a product page, a service page, a contact page, an about us page. So that's okay, but just the overall heading feel. Now I've got heading 1, H1, H2, etc. in there. That's starting to get more into the technical side of things with SEO. So I will explain that, but you can actually label those headings or tag those headings essentially behind the scenes, so that you're also telling Google what's the most important information. So H1 would be what the entire page is about, whereas H2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 would be what the various sections are about. But I'll explain more on that, so don't worry about that getting a bit too technical. All pages of your site should be accessible in 3 clicks or less as a general rule. So I would consider that. So you don't want people to be buried too deep through, a bit of a pathway of getting to a certain page. You think about people going to a menu and then clicking onto a page. You don't then want them to go to another page, to another page, to another page. Just try and work on that 3 clicks or less rule. Your home link is really important, so people should be able to get home from wherever they are on your website. And again, it's a bit of an unwritten rule that the logo will take people straight home. So keep that in mind as well. That logo, you don't need a button that says home or a menu item that says home. Just make sure that your logo takes people home. And then, like I said, it's a bit of an unwritten rule. People know from any page of your website, they can just click that and away they go. Your call to actions should be clear and obvious. Now, call to actions are the action that you actually want the customer to take. So do you want them to contact you, to find out more, to call now, buy now, those kind of things? So make them buttons, make them obvious. And again, just bring up that navigation. That traditional navigation is quite important, but even if you don't go for traditional navigation, having consistent navigation on all pages. So if your menu structure is that consistent F pattern, left to right and top to bottom, then that's great. But just keep it consistent. If it's not, then that's fine. It's fine as long as it's consistent. So that is another element. Now, in terms of your branding, we have touched on some of this, but your brand message has to be clear. It has to be consistent. So sometimes I see things like a particular business has spent a bit of time getting a homepage designed, but then the subsequent pages fall short of that overall brand message. So that consistency throughout the site is actually really important. Your logo should be high quality and prominently placed on every page. Your images have to represent your brand correctly in terms of being true to what is on offer, particularly if they're product images. Try to avoid using stock images and that kind of thing. But also, so obviously the product and service images are really important, but also how they speak to your target market as well. Now, I saw a really good example of this the other day, or a bad example you might like to consider it as, but where I sat down with a business and they told me who their target market was and described this person that was an older demographic and, almost a retiree kind of market. But then we went onto their website and the images featured a lot of younger, very young, so early 20s kind of people on it. So that's a really mixed marketing message. So if I am that retiree sort of market, this product and service is something I'm interested in, I go on and I see all these images of these people in their early 20s utilizing the product or service, it will be a little bit confusing. So am I in the right place? Is this the right product or service for me? So you really have to consider the talent in your images as well. Color schemes, as I mentioned, are important, but having a solid color scheme across the site that connects with your brand is crucial. Powerful taglines that really engage your user and sort of relate to what they need at various points can be helpful as well, just to add to the overall brand message. And calls to action that are prominently placed but on your homepage, but also on subpages. Now, the layout of your website is important as well. Your layout, the width should meet the current standard, which is about 960 pixels, and that's an active page area, not background. and that's so it appears best on most devices. Obviously, it would be responsive as well. Your layout should be modern, it should be clean, it should be easy to read, and it should look fresh. Your content should be well organized, so it's in sections and organized within the layout, and that's where you use menus and you know, menu structures and that kind of thing. Your most important information should be on your homepage, so that users get that real sense of who you are just purely at the homepage stage. You have to keep in mind that many people will, and you might have heard the term bounce rate, but a lot of people will go only to your homepage. You've got less than 2 seconds, probably closer to 1 or even less, to make a good first impression on a person at that point before they decide whether or not they're going to go into more pages or go, no, this isn't for me. So your bounce rate is a really key indicator there. If you see that you've got, you know, a 60% bounce rate, that means 60% of people are getting to that homepage and then going off. So those kind of things are really important. Sub-pages should have those consistent layouts that I mentioned, and they should be easy to find. You should have footer information or a footer type menu on all pages of your site, and that generally has repetition of your main navigation menu, but also contact information and perhaps links to socials and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. And once again, navigation is a really important layout element as well. The interactive elements that you have on your website will be things like buttons. So buttons to help to guide people throughout your site, the calls to actions that will direct the user to take a specific action that you want them to take. Anything that's clickable, so there could be images, there could be links, buttons, they should be made obvious that they are clickable as well. So, you know, an internal link, for example, would normally be a different font color, it'll be underlined or something like that. And then social media icons, if you are utilizing social media, you might want to put the icons in either your header or your footer. It depends how much encouragement you want to give people to actually get across to your socials. So those interactive elements are really important as well. So now we're going to look at SEO. We've used the word, the term, I should say, SEO a couple of times, but for those that just need a little bit more clarification on what it is, SEO stands for search engine optimization. So in very simple terms, it's the process of improving your site to increase its visibility for relevant searches. So webbots will crawl your website to understand what your business is all about. They then will index your pages in their database and then list your website's pages as a result based on many different indicators. There's over 200 factors that will determine how well your website will rank for key search terms. So as we touched on earlier, for SEO to be effective or worth your while, keyword research has to be the very first thing that you do. There's no point in spending lots of time and effort on your website for key search terms if there's nobody actually searching those terms. So I would do keyword research before you do any SEO or make any changes to your website. You have to know what people are actually searching to get to your site. So there's a number of tools that you can use for that. There's Ubersuggest, there's the Google Keyword Planner tool, there's Keywords Everywhere. So lots of those tools will tell you particular search or the search volumes on particular terms. But like I said, we do have a webinar on keyword research that I think is really interesting that will give you a lot more tips and hints on how to really get the right keywords. So prove what those search volumes are, and then the next step is for your website to improve its rankings for those search terms in search engines like Google. Now, good SEO is the culmination of hundreds of different tactical efforts. It does change and evolve, so things that you might have done in the past won't be relevant anymore or may not be working anymore. It does take time as well. So I would allow at least a month before you start to see any results, maybe a few weeks, it really depends. But because it's constantly changing, it's not just something that you would do one off and then sort of forget about it. You have to continually modify your SEO to keep up to date, essentially, with the latest algorithms and that kind of thing. Now, we're going to go and expand on SEO a little bit more, but do keep in mind we have a lot of webinars and workshops and specialist advisors that can help with SEO. So I'm just going to touch on some concepts. First of all, you've got on-page SEO and off-page SEO. Now, on-page SEO is everything that you do on your website. and off-page SEO as everything that you do away from your website that directs people back to your website. Okay, so on-page SEO to begin with. Now, on-page SEO, there's a range of different factors. You've got, first of all, readable URLs. Readable URLs are really important. In terms of, you've got your website.com.au/about us as opposed to a coded site. I'll show you an example of that shortly. Internal links we've touched on, and I will also show you an example of that, but page-to-page linking with relevant content. So, for example, your homepage talks about your product range and then links specifically to those pages. Your 301 redirects, that will inform, will redirect people. So if they go onto a page that is no longer active, because you've taken it down, you've deleted it, whatever that might be, rather than getting to an error page, they'll automatically go over to the nominated page, or the page that you've nominated. Then you've got page load time, so images can impact that. Unused code that's sitting in the back end can impact that. So there are some tests that you can do. I would certainly test regularly. You've then got meta descriptions, alt tags, and heading tags. So I'm going to go into those areas in a little bit more detail. First of all, URLs, just to show you the example. Here you've got businessstation.com/training, which is readable. You know that page is going to be about training, as does the search engine. Whereas the other one that you see there, which is a bit more of a code, it really doesn't tell the search engine or the web bot anything about what could be on that page, what is, page ID 53. So that readable URL is really important. It should make sense, but it should be based on keyword research as well. So if the keyword research indicated that the search volumes were really around Perth training, then that's really what the URL should say. Internal links. So you can see in the example here where you've got the highlighted word self-contained apartments, you've got fully equipped function rooms. So there's a few areas there. These internal links are clear. If I hover over them and click them, it will take me straight to that page. So that's quite good as well. But do keep in mind that I think with this particular page, there's more opportunities. So you've got a range of different rooms. So you've got 1 and 2 bedroom guest rooms, suites, and self-contained apartments. I would, if I was the owner of this particular site, I'd be taking advantage of all of those opportunities and having internal links. Now, I did touch on this before, but it's great for the user, because I know as a user, you're telling me you've got a self-contained apartment. I can now just hover over that area, click straight on and go to self-contained apartment. But because it's good for the user, it's also good for the web bots. And they go, all right, well, this website is actually really convenient for users to use. It's got good functionality. One of those elements is internal links. So that's another plus from an SEO perspective. 301 redirects, I did touch on those. So if you're taking down a page, deleting a page, anything like that, don't leave it just as a pure deletion. Make sure that you've got a redirection. So if anybody does happen to have a URL, or if there is any indexed URL for that old page and someone clicks it, rather than going to an error page, they're going to another page that you nominate. Then we're going to get into page title tags. So each of the pages on your website will have its own unique title tag. And now that title tag should include the main keywords for that page. So it's not the headline that's displayed on the page. This is only visible in code view. Depending on your content management system, there may be an SEO plugin that allows you to easily input what the title tag should be, or it could be something that you'll need help or assistance from your developer with. But Google and other search engines will use this title tag to display it as the main title in their search results, like the example that you see in the box in red on your screen. So the optimal length of a title tag is about only 60 characters, so it's not very long. It's long enough, though, to display a good title without it getting cut off. But don't use stock words like the, is, and, those kind of things. The preferred format is really to have your primary keywords first and then subsequent keywords. But so keep in mind that is a critical factor for web bots or Google web bots, for example, because it can really assist with SEO, but it can also heavily influence users to click through to that page. So you think about all the search results that come up. You've then got to convince somebody to actually click over to get to your website. So that's really important as well. You want to make it as likely as possible to be clicked. You have to make sure that it makes sense because that is your ultimate goal. Now, Google has recently had a bit of an update and is actually rewriting title tags. So if yours is too short, too long, too keyword heavy, has obsolete information, Google will actually rewrite these. So keep an eye on that as well. Then we've got meta descriptions. So that's that next part down. A meta description isn't visible in any part of your site. Again, it's in the HTML code. If you use a content management system, there's most likely a place where you can actually input your meta description. But this is that little description that's found under your title in search results. So like what you can see in the red square. This one doesn't actually affect your ranking in search engines, but if it's well written, it's basically going to encourage people to click through to your site. I would consider it as a mini ad for your web page, but it's free. So I would certainly take advantage of that. If you don't enter a meta description for your pages, Google's going to do it for you. Now, the way Google does it is takes a small sample of the text on each of your pages. So each page should have its own meta description. Now, if Google just takes a sample, sometimes they're cut off, sometimes it's not relevant to your keywords, or it's not that mini ad or the words that you would actually choose to get people across to your site. So do keep that in mind. It's only 160 characters here, so don't use any more than that, otherwise your text might be cut off. Certainly don't use the same meta description for every page of your website. It should be unique. And each page of your website will have different content, so it should be unique for that reason as well. All right, then we've got alt tags. Now, alt tags on the left-hand side are used for images. So essentially they are HTML tags that you can use to describe what an image is. So search engines can't see an image. So if there's no description, they don't really have any idea what it is or if it's relevant. Whereas if Google web bots can find your image because it's correctly labeled, it will help for the SEO on that page, but it also might mean that your images appear in the Google Images search. So keep that in mind. I would include local keywords or the title of the page with keywords that you're trying to rank for in that, that description as well, or in that alt tag. So you can see a bit of an example of it there. Then on the right-hand side, heading tags. So we have touched on heading tags a couple of times, or headings. Headings within your website are really important, as I said earlier, for the user. So, you know, the larger the heading, the more drawn the user is to that content. So I would do think about it in that, you know, the largest heading should be what the entire page is about. And then smaller headings will be what the particular sections or paragraphs are about. You then also tag those headings with heading tags so that you tell Google the same information. So you're going to say to Google, you know, that large heading is an H1. That is what this entire page is about. And then H2, H3, H4, it's all weighted. So Google will give prominence to the H1 tag and rank your content or that particular web page accordingly. So two sides to that, for the user and then for web bots in search engines like Google. And excuse me, I will always refer to Google because that is my preferred search engine, but obviously there are others. There's Yahoo and Bing and others. So keep that in mind. Those heading tags are really important. So that's a fly through on-page SEO. Then you've got off-page SEO. Now, off-page SEO is everything that happens away from your site that directs people back to your website or impacts your ranking within search engine results pages. So I think that off-page optimization should make up the majority of your SEO strategy because it will help build that credibility of your website. And you want your website to rank above others that have a similar message. And really to do that, you have to build your website's authority. So there's a number of ways you can do that. First of all, link building. Now, link building refers to the process of getting external pages to link to a page on your website. Now, building links tends to be complicated. Sometimes it can be time consuming. Not all links are created equal. So a link from a more authoritative website will have a much greater impact on your search engine results page than a link from a newly built or a low quality site. So basically what happens is Google bots will count all the links that come up into your website, but they're not all counted as equal. So they'll give more weight to quality links and rank accordingly. So if your site had, for example, 100 poor quality links and your competitor had 15 good quality links, then the chances are that your competitor is going to rank higher than you. Now, Google has become very good at spotting a scam in this regard. You used to be able to do all kinds of dodgy things with links and buy links and all of that kind of thing, but you absolutely can't do anything like that, and you will get penalized for doing so. So a good quality link should come from a trusted and a reputable site, or a site that's relevant to your type of business. Generally speaking, I find that links are difficult to come by, or there is some kind of human intervention to actually implement it. So some business relationship, some membership, that kind of thing. Normally it will be on a page that is that has content that's related to the content that's being linked to, so not always just getting links to your homepage. And generally speaking, it should add value to the reader or be likely to be clicked by the reader. So there's a few ways to get good backlinks. First of all, organically, you can get them. Now, organic backlinks are basically where you've produced some kind of good quality content and someone else is so impressed by your content that they either link to it or they share it. So they're obviously only going to make that decision if the content is relevant, it's unique, it's thought-provoking, or it's educational. So if you are writing blogs and that kind of thing, I would, sort of consider that. And that's, a really good reason for having good quality content. If you do develop blog pages, stay active on social media and add your blog pages or publish articles to social, or create other types of content as well, so that your content should be engaging, it should be shareable. The next way to get backlinks is to build backlinks through your networking, through your relationship building. You do need a bit of a plan of action. I would make contact with other website owners and ask them to link to your content if it's relevant, or business partnerships that you have. So think of, for example, you may be a supplier for a few different products. I would have a look at their website and see if there's an opportunity to be listed as a supplier. For example, you might write guest posts for other blogs that link back to your website. I would also look at unlinked mentions of your business or your brand on other websites, or if there's any broken links, make sure that you get a working link added in that regard as well. Now, there's tools you can use like Google Alerts. Google Alerts are free. You can set up an alert for your business name, and that way, anytime anyone's commenting about or putting information about your business online, you will get a notification that that has happened. You might identify that there's unlinked mentions of your business there, and you can create those links, or you can get or ask the writer of the content to incorporate a working link for you. You can create inbound links yourself by adding your website to business directories, for example, or niche websites that are related to your type of business. This is something that's often overlooked. An easy way to do it, I'm going to talk to you shortly about some essential online business listings that really help from an SEO perspective, because they do give you a backlink. But you can also check out your competitors. So Google your competitor's name and do a bit of research on what pages they come up on, what websites they come up on. If those websites are relevant to your type of business, have a click through to them and see if, if there's a backlink present, and see if you can pursue the same opportunity for your website as well. So that becomes, a key part of you, not only your competitor research, but really can help with your SEO. There's also non-link related off-page SEO. So obviously this earning links from external websites is the most commonly practiced off-page SEO, but any other activity that occurs outside of your website that helps to improve your search ranking position can be considered off-page SEO. And that would be your social media marketing. Now, social media sends signals so that the more activity, comments, shares, and likes that you've got going on social media, that is actually sending a signal to your search engines and really assisting with your SEO. There could be brand mentions. Like I said, methodically check for brand mentions. If they are linked, that's great. If they're unlinked, ask for a link. Influencer marketing can really help with your off-site SEO as well. That's an absolute fly through of SEO. Now, just to sort of expand on the business listing side of things, which is a great strategy from a local SEO perspective, there are some business directories that I would consider absolutely essential. The first is your Google My Business, which is now actually called Google Business Profile, which is your Google Places, Google Plus, that kind of thing. You should have your map listing in place, and you should have that optimized as much as possible, with the right descriptions, services and products added, information about your business, your name, address, phone number should all be listed there. Again, we have a webinar that's specifically on Google Business Profile and how to optimize it, how to get the most out of that listing. So I would certainly reach out and have a look at that webinar. Other review sites that might be relevant to your business. Now, obviously, people can review on Google, but they can review on Facebook, but there might be others that are relevant to your style of business. There's Yelp, there's TripAdvisor, there's a range of other sites where people can actually leave reviews. So make sure that you're taking control of that you are active in responding to and reading a review. So don't let people be reviewing you without you being part of that conversation. Other business directories. Now, the top three I would recommend are Yellow Pages, True Local, and Yelp, but there are hundreds of others essentially. So it really depends on the nature of your business. Now, as I mentioned before, doing that research on your competitors to see what pages they come up might identify there is a lot that are unique. If you're a tradie, there's a lot that are specified or specific to the tradie sort of industry or professional services, health directories, that kind of thing. So really think about the nature of your business and what sort of industry you're in as well. And then you may have even more business directories you can list on. But the key thing with these business directories is having a consistent name, address, phone number, and your website listed on those business directories, because it can become a critical local ranking factor. Now, a local ranking factor is if, let's say I'm in Perth CBD and I search physiotherapist Perth, the search engines like Google are going to have a look at all of these indicators around how, what is the best business to show this customer that's searching for a physiotherapist in Perth. If you're on lots of different business listing websites with the consistent name, address, and phone number that mentions Perth, then your Google Places listing is a lot more likely to come up and rank higher than someone who doesn't have that same presence throughout the web. So I would say in that regard, don't do directory listings or local SEO without a physical address. If you can put a physical address, absolutely do it. Otherwise, you're at a slight disadvantage from a local perspective. Local listings have a really important role in making your business more visible in local search, and that address is simply required to get local listings. So if you work from home or don't have an address, then that's fine, but it will impact your local ranking factor. So keep that in mind. But Australian business directories aren't just for boosting local rankings. They can also provide referral traffic, where people, let's say you do go onto Yellow Pages and you see a list of businesses and they'll click through. So there's kind of two sides to it, but the predominant reason for looking at these directories would be from an SEO perspective. Okay, so we are not going to go into detail on SEM, search engine marketing, so much today. We're just going to touch on one form of pay-per-click advertising, which is remarketing. Remarketing, retargeting, you could have heard it. It's fantastic. It's very cost effective. It's immediate. It's flexible. Obviously, everything you do from an online advertising perspective is tracked. So remarketing is something, if you're not doing anything else in the SEM space, the search engine marketing space, I would absolutely consider remarketing. So SEO is ranking organically, and SEM is search engine marketing, where you can set up advertising and essentially pay per click. Now, remarketing, the way it works, you can see on the graphic on your screen. And it's a very simple concept where you're essentially reinforcing your brand to people that have already visited your website. So somehow a prospect gets to your website. Now, they could have seen your car drive past or seen your office. They could have picked up a brochure, or they could have done a search or seen you on social media. So it could have happened offline or online. However, they get to your website. Once they're on your website, they are tracked. And when they leave your site, you have the opportunity to have ads appear as banners or pop-ups on other sites that they browse. So you will have most definitely been a recipient of remarketing. You may or may not have noticed it, but it is very cost-effective, and it is fantastic for increasing that brand awareness. Now, you can do a similar thing with Facebook retargeting, where you've got a bit of code on your website. A prospect gets to your website, they're tracked with this Facebook pixel, and then next time they're in social media, we can advertise to them. So either of those, Google remarketing or Facebook retargeting, I would highly recommend at a bare minimum. If you're looking at some online advertising as a starting point, that's, like I said, a really good way to reinforce your brand to people that already have some connection with you. There's a range of other things that you can do with online advertising, but just to touch on those two elements as a bit of a starting point or one of those must-dos from a digital marketing perspective. All right, social media, we're going to quickly touch on. Now, again, we have an extensive range of webinars, workshops, and advisors that specialize in social media. But just to really quickly touch on it, social media has made a huge impact on all businesses and industries. Consumers really engage with social networking sites to research, to get tips, hints, make informed decisions about various things, and even to share their own personal experiences with brands. So this user-generated content that is developed is seen by consumers or the online community as a lot more credible and authentic than any kind of advertising or any kind of brand directed content. So I would really think about being on social media if you're not already. What you do have to consider is, again, go back to your target markets and think about who is your target market, who are your target markets, I should say, and what channels are accessed by them. So who are the people that matter most for you, and then build content for them. It should be snackable content, so it shouldn't be extensive. It's not articles like your blogs. It's just little bits of information that as they're scrolling through various social media platforms, that content is easily digestible and what we call snackable content. The main thing you're looking for is engagement. Engagement is absolutely key. You want them to like, share, or comment on your post. You want that engagement. And then it has to be two-way engagement as well. So you have to then be willing and be prepared and be able to interact with people as they're engaging with you. You have to keep in mind that social media does send signals to search engines like Google. So that engagement in that social space really does help with your SEO efforts as well. But beyond just engaging with the consumer, I would look at engaging with your industry. You might have membership organizations and that kind of thing where you can actively engage. So I would certainly consider that and providing them content that they can share to build credibility amongst your industry as well. Do keep in mind it's a visual language. Images are really going to do a lot better. Also consider that it's really mobile first. So consider producing content for mobile first and then desktop. But most of the content that you'll be putting on can translate across both anyway. So finally, we're going to talk about email marketing. Now, email marketing has been around a long time. Most people use some kind of professional email marketing software. There is a huge range of software that you can access, which is very cost effective and effective in terms of managing a database by way of privacy, unsubscribes, that kind of thing. Now, if you are developing a database, I really think about the objectives of why you want to communicate with this database and what you're going to communicate. Personalization is key with any email marketing. You want to be providing information to people that is relevant to who they are, perhaps what they've purchased in the past or what they're interested in. Now, it's not always about promotions. I would be looking at providing information, tips, hints, useful content to your audience as well. And then subsequently, you might provide promotional information. But do keep in mind that personalization and knowing what your customer is actually interested in is really important. The way you do that is through segmentation. So know your audience and then only send them information that appeals to them. And that could be based on their demographics, their past purchases, what they've said they're interested in. Also keep in mind that spam filters are at an all-time sort of peak in terms of performance. So there's a lot that's not getting past these spam filters and will end up in junk. So be really careful of that. So really think about, again, why you've got a database and what you're doing with it. I would also consider that unsubscribes aren't a bad thing. You don't want people on your database that aren't actually engaged with your brand. So if they're not going to open, they're not going to click, they're not going to take any action, then there's absolutely no point in having them as a number, or, you know, as they're just having an email address in your database. When you are sending emails, absolutely consider that who it's sent from within your organization is really important, or the from name that it's sent from, and the subject line are absolutely crucial indicators to make sure that your email gets opened. I had a really good example of this the other day. There's a brand that I've been following. I've been on their database for a number of years, but obviously someone new in marketing has taken over recently. And instead of getting that email from the company name, which I'm used to seeing, and I know I subscribed to that database years ago, it's now coming from an individual's name. So all of a sudden I'm getting these emails in my inbox that are from, let's just call him Paul. And my first thing was, hang on a second, who is this Paul? I kind of, you know, the subject line I can sort of relate to, but I don't know who that individual is. Therefore, you immediately, people are questioning, is this email for me? Is this spam? Who's this from? So that from name is absolutely crucial. If it's your name personally, that's fine, as long as that's what people signed up for. But if they signed up to your business and only know and expect an email from the business, then keep that consistent as well. Otherwise, you'll get unsubscribed or no opens. Also keep in mind, this is going a little step further, but your database and email marketing, you might want to start to limit that, but you can still cross-promote your database in social media platforms like Facebook, and start advertising to people in Facebook if you've got their contact in a database. So a bit of retargeting there. So that's kind of next level advertising. So we won't touch any more on that, other than to know that it is something that is available to you. So keep that in mind, and certainly reach out for more information if that's of interest. Now, that is an absolute fly through of digital marketing and kind of the basics of digital marketing. I would consider that everything that happens in a digital sense should be measured. So make sure that you're tracking all of your results. You've got some kind of monthly reporting in place so that you are looking at things like engagement on social media posts and what your web hits are doing and where your web traffic's coming from, correlating that with sales or leads and that kind of thing. So really look at importing all of this information into your own reporting. Now, as part of the Digital Solutions program that you have joined this webinar as part of, you can certainly get more assistance. We have a range of workshops and webinars. Like I said, this is designed to be an overview, so certainly reach out if you do want more information. We have over 90 advisors across Queensland, NT and WA. That you can work with. If you are interested in signing up, it's $44 for 3 one-on-one sessions with an advisor, plus a range of workshops and webinars to make up that 7-hour package. So certainly consider that if you want to know any more on any of the topics we've discussed today. There is a little bit of eligibility around that. So we run the program in WA, Queensland and NT, as I mentioned. So that's where our advisors are located, and that's sort of our area. You have to be operating for profit and employ fewer than 20 full-time staff. So if that sounds like you and you're interested, please reach out. Now, I will stay on the line now. If you want to ask any questions, please just pop that into the Q&A functionality and I'll happily answer those. But if not, thank you so much for joining me today, and good luck with your digital marketing.